like she said, my presentation is on the effect that the neglect that happens in orphanages in China and Romania has on the psychological and physical health of orphans that come out of those institutions. In Romania specifically, in the 20th century, they adopted a pronatalist policy, which basically bans all women from any form of contraceptive or abortion. So it flooded a lot of the orphanages with unwanted children. Also in China, they have the well-known one-child-only policy, which actually entices families to give up baby girls in order to try and get a baby boy who can carry on the family name and make money for the family. Those two policies overcrowded a lot of the orphanages, so they were unprepared for the amount of children that they were taking in. That led to severe understaffing, which is one of the main problems of the orphanages. In Romania, the employee-to-child ratio is 60-1. In China, an observer noted that there were 2 or 3 volunteers looking over 48 infants in one of the orphanages. Specifically in Romania, they were extremely unprepared for this. So they actually don't have heat in a lot of their institutions. There are no hygiene considerations. And then their education and medical programs are virtually non-existent. In one of the orphanages that was noted in 1992, the children were eating wormy apples and mealy bread. Both of these systems also don't have any programs for handicapped or disabled children. So if you're deemed handicapped, disabled, or sick, in Romania you're sent to an even worse asylum, which is called, and you're labeled an incurable. And then in China you're sent to something called the dying room, which is separate from the actual orphanage, but it's still part of it, and you're given less medical care and basically left to die. Okay, apologizing if it gets better at the end. The American study took 65 of the healthiest Romanian orphans and studied them and did a physical workup. Of these, 53% of them had hepatitis B infection, and 33% were recorded to have 1 or 2 intestinal parasites. They also measured their height, weight, head circumference, and height to age ratio, and compared them with family-raised children to see if they were growing at the same rate, and they were the numbers for these measurements were severely lower than someone raised in a community. Mainly, this is due to a lack of nutrition. They also did a study on emotional health with Chinese orphans, I believe, and they observed Chinese orphans that were coming straight out of an orphanage and how they played with researchers, and then they compared them to someone who was family raised. They were looking for negative emotions like sadness and indifference, and happy emotions, which are excitement and interest, and they showed almost no interest. They were really indifferent, and they showed a lot more problem behaviors and negative behaviors. And this is because of the understaffing in these orphanages, the children are rarely ever played with, touched, or given attention. This is a quote from a girl who did an expose on a Chinese orphanage, and she was the one that kind of exposed the American world to the dying room. And she said, "Their eyes beg for human warmth and affection. Others already passive and withdrawn, their bottles lie untouched, as though they are too weak, too indifferent, or still too young to make the effort." So it gets better, sort of. When children are adopted, they improve rapidly, and almost everything that they are coming out of the orphanage with gets reversed. So a Chinese study during the first 2 years of their adoption showed that their cognitive and physical development actually got better at a steeper rate than children who were growing up in a normal family setting. So they started out lower, and they rapidly increased until they were just slightly below the average of other children. They're still ended up smaller. They're still a little bit cognitively behind. Personally, I have a friend who's adopted from an incurable asylum in Romania, and she's 32 and has the cognitive ability of a 15-year-old girl. So the fact that they can improve at this steep rate is mainly just because they're being paid attention to and they're given proper nutrition. This is a sum up, basically. He's the guy that did a lot of the studies on their cognitive development. It basically just says that because of the severe neglect that they're getting in orphanages, they can't develop as a normal child would. Thank you.